Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and the reports of my death are greatly exaggerated. That being said, it's time to rip off a band-aid. Let's get into the 2017 Q1 State of the Channel address. I know you guys have a lot of questions. So as a brief reminder, how this goes down is we break it up into multiple parts. The first is introduction, then retrospective, then future goals, and then feedback. So let's dive into the introduction and overview. So first and foremost, the new channel name and rebranding that you guys may have noticed. Let's address the elephant in the room. And I did say that this was ripping off a band-aid. So let me give some context for that. The first is that the channel name previously was THFE Productions. This was a holdover from the previous YouTube channel that I branched off of, which was the Halo Forge Epidemic. The name no longer applied and was being more of a burden than a boon, and so I decided to do a rebrand to Invicta, which means unconquered. And so that's supposed to be like Roma Invicta, and so I just grabbed Invicta, so that's a new name, and it kind of represents the military history aspect that we're going to be covering, and then the rebrand goes along with that to try and theme everything around history and covering multiple time periods, so that's that. Next thing I want to discuss is the new lore series that I'm starting up. This one is going to be on Game of Thrones Dragon Warfare. It's split up into 3 parts, so you'll be seeing that coming out soon, and it's supposed to kind of help the ramp up to the official Game of Thrones Season 7 reveal. And that is going to be done with officially Devin, who's going to be doing narration. He's also going to be coming on for future documentary videos on select episodes. And then another thing I want to announce in this overview is a new documentary style / series that I'm going to be revealing this quarter, which is called Moments. And then the last point is going to be new partnerships. So that's all going to be going into this episode. That's the brief recap. Now let's get into the various subsections, starting with the retrospective. So the first is going to be milestones. So, milestones, documentary videos. We have come out with the Lake Town video, which was from Lord of the Rings. That did really well. It was my first real trip into that type of lore. I had done a previous Warhammer lore video, but this one was the first in Lord of the Rings, and I think it did really well. It allowed me to branch out and try new things, and it kind of staked a claim in that realm if I want to revisit it. But it was really a test in the water. So that was a good success. The other milestone that came out was Jerusalem Part 2, so I'm continuing to move along with that series. Part 2 came out, that one did really well, took a bit longer than expected because of the new map animations that I rolled out with, but those were definitely worthwhile. Another big milestone that we hit was the Facebook page that I rolled out with, so that was pretty awesome, so that one's up and running. Definitely check it out. It's where I show a lot of teasers of what's kind of been going on behind the scenes for the channel, and so if you were there, you would have known about this rebrand coming, but then also I'll share a lot of military history facts, book recommendations, and things like that. And then the other big milestone, of course, that I laid out earlier was that I wanted to do a big rebrand, so boom, now it's public and it has appeared. Growth, we can talk a little bit about growth briefly. Well, as of making this video, we're about to hit 150,000 subscribers, which is a really great benchmark, and it's one of the reasons why I wanted to time it with new series, new rebrand, and all that. So I think this was pretty fitting. In terms of views, we're doing pretty well, and subscribers also. We've been getting some pretty significant spikes here and there, some of it dealing with the ramp up of Total War Warhammer 2, which I'm kind of banking off of, but also some big spikes of people discovering my documentaries, and so that was a really nice thing for me to see because it validated my efforts put into my documentaries. Some of the old ones are really picking up speed, and yeah, it really reinforces my push to do that. In terms of general retrospectives, I like to cover what went well and what went poorly. So what went well? Well, the Facebook launch went well. We have a lot of people over there. It's pretty active, and I get a lot of good feedback, and I get to share lots of interesting stuff there. So that's been really awesome. A lot of behind-the-scenes work that I've been doing has been going really well. I've created new partnerships. I'm creating new series. I've done a lot of planning for the Moments series. I have a bunch of new scripts that are ready, new style and presentation and templates, all kinds of stuff. However, that's all behind the scenes, so let's go to what went poorly. Well, what went poorly is that there has been, at least as far as the public is aware, a documentary slowdown. Unfinished series, the Siege of Jerusalem one is now dragging out very long, and that's even before I get to the documentary series on the Roman legion. So please know that people want me to get back to those, and that a lot of my manpower has been put into stuff that is behind the scenes, but I do expect that in Q1 to really turn around and bear fruit. So that's what went poorly, and this is my attempt to explain that, and that's the purpose of these State of the Channel addresses, so I can let you know what's going on. But yeah, I do notice that people have been a little bit ticked off that documentaries have slowed down, but again, the good news is behind the scenes, I'm revving up and doing a lot of good work. Let's go into the future goals section. So this is going to be talking more about the Game of Thrones series, the Moments series, and a potential Art of War series that I'm working on. So let's start off with Game of Thrones. So you guys saw a teaser that I put up. Please check it out if you haven't already. This is going to be teasing a 3-part series that's already actually done. So as opposed to my other documentaries where I usually, work on one episode, release it, work on another, release it. This one is going to have all 3 episodes done before I release the first one. That way I can release them, one weekend after another seamlessly. So that's pretty good, and they're pretty much all done. So that Game of Thrones series, what's it going to cover? Dragon warfare. It's going to go over the anatomy of dragons, kind of the lore behind them. It's going to go over the history, and then it's going to go over tactics of dragon use in the lore and in their warfare. What's the game plan behind this series? Well, the reason I'm doing this is because the Game of Thrones Season 7 is coming out. I'm a big fan of that, so I wanted to cover it. But also what I'm using this documentary series to do is to grab more attention. I'm just going to go ahead and say it. This is an attempt for me, and it took priority over everything else, to try and ride a wave of enthusiasm for Game of Thrones and net some new viewers, get them hooked on my type of content, show them what I'm capable of producing, and then hopefully once I have those people kind of interested in my channel, then when I get back into stride of documentaries, I have a bunch of new exposure. So that's kind of the game plan behind Game of Thrones. And as far as like a business strategy, it took priority over everything else. It took priority over the Roman legions, over Siege of Jerusalem, because this was time sensitive and I really needed to coincide it with the rebrand and all that. And this is all sort of changing of the storefront to try and get new customers. So I hope you excuse kind of my shifting of priorities, but that was the game plan behind it. So what comes on the back end of this? Well, on the back end of this, hopefully I'll get a new boost in viewers and subscribers. And to capitalize on that, what am I going to have to do? Well, I have to kind of put on a show for these new people and obviously the longtime viewers. How am I going to do that? Well, the idea is to pilot a new series that's going to be called Moments. Now, this Moments series is a pretty big shift in the way I do documentaries. Previous documentaries have been long, multi-part episodes that are continual stories, and they take a lot of time and investment, and if you wrap them all together, sometimes they're 45 minutes long. So these are full-blown documentaries. Moments is supposed to be different. Moments is supposed to be short, fire documentaries that are quick, digestible, to the point, and yeah, that's the idea. The problem I have right now with my documentaries is, 1, they're resource intensive, and 2, they target a niche audience. That is really not a good business strategy. It means that you're putting in, it's a high cost for me, and it's a low payoff. Yes, I like doing it, but at the end of the day, it's not really sustainable. So that what the Moments is supposed to do is it's supposed to make it short and sweet, so it's much less intensive on manpower, and it's supposed to reach out and address a much wider audience. So that is going to be to help kind of sustain the channel and sustain my blockbuster videos. At the moment, the filler content right now is Total War footage, that kind of buffer that keeps people entertained between documentaries. But what that causes is a duality in the channel, where I have history documentaries and then Total War footage, and it's kind of a desync. So what I'd like to do is have the Moments series to help reinforce that buffer. So between the big documentaries, I have history content as opposed to just Total War content. So that's kind of the play and the strategy behind this. A bit more about the Moments series. Well, it's got the concept behind it is moments. So it's supposed to pick out key moments in history and just zoom in on one particular moment. So for instance, this is going to be broken up into several different categories of videos, and these categories are going to be able to allow me to cover all sorts of time periods. I'm no longer going to be hitched to the classical period. I'm going to cover all sorts of time periods. The different subcategories are going to be epic moments in history, deadliest moments in history, tragic moments, unexpected moments, everyday moments, deceptive, treasonous, barbaric, intoxicated, cataclysmic, decisive, mysterious, last stand, ingenious, and misunderstood moments. So what this allows me to do is kind of pinprick little moments in history that I find are very interesting that I want to share, but that otherwise wouldn't warrant a 45-minute documentary. So now I get to go piecemeal in, cover these various topics, and as you see, these various subcategories are very different. And so the way I think of it is each of these offers a different perspective on the history timeline. And so by doing this, what I can do is I can focus on history from 360 degrees by having different videos with different perspectives. So that's the idea behind this. So what you're going to be seeing this quarter is me rolling out with the the pilot for this Moment series. What we're going to be seeing for this quarter is going to be select episodes from different categories that aren't going to be necessarily joined one after another. Now in the future, once I get the style and the presentation and the narration and all that hammered out, I'm going to be changing my business model to be, instead of just doing random episodes, I'm going to move to perhaps a season model. And the way the season model is going to work is I may move towards crowdfunding and try and move towards recommendations. So the idea will be people crowdfund some season, and let's say the viewers select that they want to do a moment series on Alexander the Great. The way that's going to work is we're going to take the Alexander's life and perhaps the surrounding events, and we're going to chop it up into different little bits, and we're going to do a whole season that covers, epic moments in the history of Alexander, deadly moments, tragic moments, unexpected moments, everyday moments, deceptive, barbaric, intoxicated moments. An example of what that could be, so epic moments, for instance, would be covering specifically the charges that Alexander the Great made at the head of the Macedonian cavalry, what that was like, how he, got up to the position of being a commander who charged in head first, really covering those key moments and just diving into his personality, what allowed him to do that, how his companions reacted, and kind of just a commander charging in. And perhaps the key moment for that will be Alexander charging at Darius. So that would be an epic moment. A deadly moment would be something focused on high body count. So deadly moments could be talking about Alexander and his overall deadly body count for his campaigns, comparing that to other commanders in history. Intoxicated moments, if we talk about Alexander, could be discussing how he was a huge drunk, and the Macedonians in general were drunks, and perhaps, what recorded history do we have of him being intoxicated? Did that influence his decisions? So really interesting stuff. Misunderstood moments could talk about, was he really great? What are the different sides of the arguments about him? What don't we understand specifically about Alexander the Great? So that would be kind of the season model for moments. But back to Q1, what you can expect. Q1, I'm going to be doing rapid fire, diving into different episodes in the different categories, but also doing a splattering of different time periods, because that's the beauty of moments. Because I'm unhinged from doing a 45-minute episode, I can really kind of go all over the place, and that'll hopefully pique people's interest. So what I have in store for Season 1, well, I have a couple different ones. So for epic moments, we're going to be taking a look at Spartan one-liners. What are the epic historical records we have of one-liners Spartans said? So for instance, the context behind Molon Labe, which is come and take them. Unexpected moments that we'll cover would be ancient dinosaurs. What happened when ancient people discovered dinosaur bones? What did they think of them? Did they think they were mysterious creatures? Did they think they were some godly characters? And what is the historical record about ancient dinosaur discoveries? For deadliest moments, we'll be taking a look at ancient serial killers. What are some examples of the biggest ancient serial killers? And we'll be going back in time past Jack the Ripper, and looking all the way into the Roman period and medieval period to see what were the serial killers at the time. Barbaric moments, we'll be looking at something like Viking torture methods, including the blood eagle, which is more of an execution than a torture method. Cataclysmic moments, we'll be looking at the Mongol storms as they tried to invade Japan, the kamikaze winds that destroyed 2 of their invasion fleets and really prevented the Japanese from being invaded by the Mongols. Tragic moments, we'll be probably looking at Alicia's abandoned citizens, so that is going to be discussing the standoff between Caesar and Vercingetorix, and how basically the citizens of Alicia were expulsed from the city because the military commanders didn't want to feed them, but then Caesar denied them safe passage, and so they ended up starving in the no man's land between the two forces in a real battle of wills. So that would be a tragic moment that we could cover. Intoxicated moments would probably be covering Nazi high command, and I put high in quotes because we're going to talk about what drugs were the Nazis on, the high command and the generic troops, battle line troops. So that's kind of the idea behind moments. So bear with me. We're going to be getting into this. In terms of the style, we're going to be trying to focus a bit more on a different style that's going to be kind of like silhouettes. If you've ever seen the Roman army structure video, we're going to be going after something like that in terms of art style. So stay tuned for more about this. Another series that I'm going to be developing, but I don't think will be ready for this quarter, is going to be the Art of War series, and that's explicitly going to be focused on tactics, military tactics and strategies throughout history, focusing simply on that, not going over the whole details of the battle or everything like I typically do. We're going to be going straight to the meat of it. What was a tactic employed? who used it, why was it effective, and we'll be doing that for various people. So for instance, if we go over the Romans, we'll be going over simplex acquiesce, duplex acquiesce, triplex acquiesce. We'll be going over the boar's head, the testudo. We'll be going over all kinds of stuff like that, the feigned flight, retreat from the steppe tribes, and things of that nature. So that's going to be really exciting. And then another future goal is to continue to expand my social media presence, grow Facebook, grow Twitter, grow all that. So that is future goals. It's pretty ambitious, but I think we can tackle it, and I think a lot of the behind-the-scenes work that I've been working on will pay off. Next, we can go on to feedback. So I had run a poll last quarter, and the results are in. A couple key takeaways is that 71% of the people who responded say they subscribe for documentaries. That was a large part of the motivation behind my rebrand, to try and go into history. That is what I'm going to be targeting. That's why most of the people said they're here, and I think it's what's going to be long-term sustainable for me. I asked people, what length videos do you want to see? 90% of them said we want long and in-depth documentaries. So if you take that at face value, that seems to be in stark contrast to what I've done with the Moments series. But I think that what people are really saying is they don't want me to skimp on the detail. And the Moment series is not going to skimp on the detail. What it's going to do instead is just narrow down the scope. We're going to be looking at stuff in a microscope, but within that microscope, everything is going to be in high detail. So I think we're going to be able to preserve that, but make it much more digestible, cover a lot more topics, and I think that'll make that crowd of people happy, and it'll also give me covering fire as I work on the bigger documentary episodes. Next topic. 65% of people said they wanted to see mostly history videos with some fantasy lore, with 28% saying they only wanted to see history. So definitely there's a big bias towards history content. Again, this goes a bit in contrast to me rolling out with this Game of Thrones series, but again, I don't expect fantasy to take over. It's just kind of a business decision on my end to try and bring in a new crowd of people. But mind you, the Moment series is going to be looking really at history, so I think that'll please this crowd of people. And then finally, 91% of the people surveyed said they prefer a mix of maps, diagrams, and Total War footage. So yeah, I'll be continuing with my main documentary series with the same style that I've been using. But with this moment series, I'm going to be stripping away probably the Total War footage and moving towards more animated stuff. So we'll see how people react to that. I'll have to run another poll probably in the future. But yeah, that's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Sorry for the abrupt change in the rebranding, but I think it was absolutely necessary. Like I said, it's ripping the band-aid off, and yeah, I've got a lot of stuff in the works. I hope you're excited for not only the Game of Thrones series, but this Moment series, and yeah, I'm really excited for it. I've got a lot of new partnerships too. Officially, Devin is going to be doing select narration, as I've said, and then also people behind the scenes who are going to be developing artwork, research, video editing. I'm starting to get a crew together, which is pretty cool, pretty exciting from my end, and yeah, so stay tuned. Leave your comments below. I'm very excited to see what feedback you have, and yeah, thanks for tuning in, and thank you for your continued support. See you in the next one. Peace out.